Welcome to Getting Film Buff, podcast for film buffs, nerds, and makers alike. Today I'm joined by Bryson Spaulding, storyteller, filmmaker. Excited to have you here.
Thank you so much. This is emotional for me. This is big. I've never been seen as this. I've always considered myself like a Capri Sun enthusiast.
But
that's about it. Never
anything
else.
Good. That's exciting.
I'm just kidding.
No, that's all good. Well, excited to have you here. Do you have what are your expectations going into this?
Expectations? I don't know if I have any expectations. Just a lot of anxiety.
Oh.
Yeah, that's about it.
Well, let's dissipate that a little bit.
When we get into it, I'll start feeling better about things.
I'm sure. So you ready to just hop right into it?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go right in.
Cool.
Yeah, let's just go right in.
So, Bryson, many of the projects which you have done, you have been making them with your friends.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. So much fun. So much fun to capture, laughing and memories and just all these awesome moments, such as the classic Commander Do. And the reaction which came along with your friend Stratton. So how do your friends fuel your creative motivation when it comes to filmmaking, and how has it pushed you to improve your filmmaking?
I would say, like, as our friendship kind of grew, all of us, so I moved onto this street called North 40. We called it the street North 40, right? And that's when I met my friend Miles and his twin sister, Holly.
A little different.
Yeah, a little different. And then I later on, our friend Fox moved in. And then later on, our friend Staten joined. And all of us, and then we also had my friend Logan. And that was like our squad there. And as we grew up through middle school and high school, I definitely was like, guys, what if we did this? We all have our own sort of like humor that's just, in my mind, and this seems biased, of course, but in my mind, our humor is just the freaking best, because it's like not just like saying stupid things here and there, which is what we do, but I'd say like, we're just so clever sometimes. That sounds so prideful to say that, but like I would say like our jokes seems so like you just pull references from things so long ago, and we remember that, and that just means a lot to each other. And so when you say that one joke just right, it just hits harder. So when we started like making videos, it happened probably in like 2014 or 15. I had a dream. The dream was that we made this TV show called Life on North 40, and we got all the kids on the street. We made episodes, put them on YouTube, and then like Disney Channel saw it and then was like, we want to make your show. And I was like, amazing. So when I woke up, I made that happen as soon as I could.
Nice.
And we made one episode and then filmed 2 and 3, but never finished it. And the reason why is because it had no direction whatsoever.
Oh, so it was just a bunch of nonsense?
It was. And it wasn't even just us. It was like us and all the neighborhood kids there as well. So we had a lot of people, and there were so many conflicting ideas. But I would say, back to your question now, you see how I derail like that. It happens a lot with my ADHD.
Okay.
The videos that I made ended up just being kind of like realizations of inside jokes. So we would just take certain funny moments and bring it to life. So with Commander Do,
right,
back in COVID of 2020, Staten and I were playing this game called Ark Survival Evolved. And he loved the dinosaur aspect of it. So he gets all these dinosaurs. He has these farms, different dinosaurs that do different things. And we got like our raptors that we ride on, or we have these dragons, stuff like that. I loved the dodo birds so much. I loved how weird they were, how quirky they were. Wah, 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 wah,
Yeah.
And they were just so annoying. And so I tamed as many as I could. I named the first one Adam and the second one Eve. I had them legally and civilly married. And then I just let them have at it. And because we owned a server, it just kept going overnight. And so one time we came back and the server was like glitching, because in my little bunker that I made for my
there was
dodo
too
birds,
many.
They filled it like crazy.
Oh my gosh.
So Staten told me I need to kill all of them or he will. And so I sent them off to war to fight this, like, I think there was a pack of Allosauruses.
Nice.
And so they went, and all of them died except for one, who I brought back, and I named him Commander Dew. And Commander Dew was the leader of the next regiment because I found him a wife, had them civilly married, and then they had a lot of kids. And then Stanton told me, you're breaking the server again, go do it again. This time, they went to attack like a pack of raptors or something like that, and all of them died once again except for one, which was Commander Dew once again. And so Commander Dew, well, after getting chased back by the dinosaurs, and I got him secured. Another adventure later on, Stan and I left, and we were gone far from our home, but all of a sudden in the server log, it started saying like all of our animals were dying, and we didn't know why. And then we saw that velociraptors broke into our like, we had these gates, these huge ones. Some of them broke in somehow, started killing all of the animals. And I was like, oh, frick. So we booked it as fast as we could, and we're just watching, and it's been like at least 3 hours since the last save, and we were going to lose it all. Don't worry, all this has a purpose. Anyways, in the end, when we're getting close to the base, we see Commander Dew kills Velociraptor. Commander Dew kills Velociraptor. And we're like, no. There's no way a dodo bird killed 2 Velociraptors. And we get home, and there is a bloodied up, feathers lost dodo bird just standing with 2 Velociraptors at his feet.
Yes.
And we checked his health, and in his inventory, which you can't place things in there, you can only put berries in his inventory, but he carried a crossbow, hammer, and a pickaxe. And thus began the legend of Commander Dew and how he saved everyone.
Right.
And so we created this idea of like Commander Dew being this like heroic military leader who protects us all, and we made him like this huge house and statue in honor of him.
Nice.
A couple months later, in August, Stanton's birthday is August 1st.
Right.
Every night before it hits midnight, I like to text my friends, like right when it hits midnight, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday. So July 30th, I go, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday. And he goes, Bryson, thank you so much, but my birthday's tomorrow. And I was like, what are you talking about? And I realized it's July 31st because I had no clue there was a July 31st.
Right.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I missed your birthday. I waited for the next day, but then I completely forgot. And so then he went like, you forgot my birthday. You are a terrible friend. And I was like, I know. Oh my gosh, it's just so bad.
Just became super self-conscious.
Exactly.
Like, oh no.
This hurts. So fast forward one more year before I leave on my mission, I decided to make the best birthday gift to make up, and that was the recreation of Commander Dew.
Yes.
Okay, so that's where all of this comes full circle, ladies and gentlemen. You might be wondering where I'm going with this.
Right.
Context, right? Friends, inside jokes, Commander Dew, missed the birthday, here we are. I am now driven unlike anything I've ever done before. I put over 50 hours. I quit my job a month early for my mission just to full-time learn how to sculpt, how to model, how to do feather like systems on the 3D model, how to make it look beautiful, how to animate it, how to do all of that. And then I had to do all these other like inside jokes to create this video for him on his birthday exactly. so yeah, I don't know if that gives any context for any future questions there about the kind of work that I make, but it's stupid. It's like, why would you put that much time and effort into all that?
No, I think it's fantastic.
Thank you.
I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Awesome. Because I would say that what really makes, I think, a lot of the work I do very special, at least for me, is that it is for a very particular audience.
Right.
And it is for those people. And when you curate art in that specific way, it's more special for you and especially for the one receiving it. So.
It's very personal. It's like this isn't just like for general audiences and then you find personal connections with it. It's driven to be personal from the very get-go of the idea. I think that's awesome. And I think that's where a lot of really interesting or really personal art, whether it's completely ridiculous or whether it's meant to be more sentimental, comes from, for sure. Yeah, and I think that's kind of a thing that I've noticed in art recently, especially in the film industry right now, is that the most popular, I would say by popular I mean the ones that people genuinely think are good and they like, are the ones that are more experimental and the ones that had more of that creative juice and drive, and it wasn't seen really as a business opportunity. I would say that. Yeah, no, for sure. I love that. You've had other opportunities to do like film-related things as well, not just your personal exploits with your friends, which have been fantastic and really fun. But you also had the opportunity to work as a PA of sorts for a video game startup, Dragon Federation.
Yeah.
What were some of the lessons that you were able to learn from that experience?
Okay, so this startup, Dragon Federation, it had a lot of interest. I had a lot of interest before the mission, but I thought it was going to die. I'm not going to lie. And so when I got back and it was still alive, I was like, oh, wow. And the guy was in my ward at some point.
Right.
And so I had connections with him.
Yeah.
I did 3D modeling and like work for him on some of the stuff there. Just, intern crap, unpaid intern crap.
Right.
And so he asked me, he's like, hey, I'm going to be doing a commercial shoot. Do you want to help me on like this time? And I was like, actually, I could help you the whole day if you want. And so he's like, yeah. So I went around with him the whole day, and I just talked with him the whole time, which was huge for me because I could understand where he was coming from. So he used to be a film director, but then moved into being a creative director at this place called Bullfrog Spas, and then felt like he needed something different and new, which is why he went full-time into doing this startup company. It's a video game about dragons. I remember we were going from place to place to place because he was picking up a little bit of film equipment from this friend, and another one from this friend, and another one from this friend, and I was just like, wow, look at all this. That was my first exposure to a C-stand. That was so hard to set up. I hated that. I was like, this thing is terrible. Why can't it just be a tripod? Like it was bad. Anyways, but his brother owns an Airbnb, and it was empty that day. So we went in there, and so I did a little bit of set dressing. And by set dressing is we went to this. He knows this girl who does like dragon paintings, and she was selling them at like this one mall over at this like random shop that were selling random things. And so we went over there, we borrowed some of them. Okay. Went over, and I just watched how this guy made the cheapest commercial ever by just asking favors out of everyone. It was incredible. Wow. It actually kind of was like, for me, it was like, this cost him no money, just time. It has just cost him time and possibly return favors. But other than that, like, he is doing everything like for free. And there's a moment where we were going to film. He even had a cosplay girl that he met at Comic-Con drive up from, I think, St. George. Wow. To just be the actress for free for the whole day. And I was like, how did you do that? How did you convince someone to do that? She was really cool about it. And I remember there were some times where like I saw his script, and this is also the first time I really noticed a script. Right. And I was like, dang, this is cool. This is legit. And I asked him like, okay, where's the camera? And he's like, oh, we don't need a camera. I was like, then what are we filming on? Like, what's the whole? And he's like, we're going to be just using my phone. And I was like, in my mind, I went full commercial shoot. I was thinking like the huge big thing, sound stage, whole.
You just set up a C-stand. You're like, what, we got all this legit equipment. We're going to use a phone?
Exactly. Just like, what are we doing here? And he is like, this here films more than I could need. And we don't need, and in my mind, I told him, I was like, I have a DSLR back at home if you need that. Like, I have it's like a Rebel TI-7, a Canon Rebel TI-7. I'm like, it doesn't shoot 4K anything. He's like, oh, we're not shooting 4K. And I was like, oh, yeah, we don't need that. Yeah, no. What do I know? And I remember he shot the whole thing, and I watched this as we were going through scene to scene to different places. I've had my moments of like, I don't think that's right. And then moments of just like, I see why he's shooting with the phone. Right. Because he wanted these POV shots where it's from her perspective.
You can't. It's harder to get that with
an actual camera that's like the size of a shotgun or a cannon from Halo. Yeah. I mean, cannon. Wow, a rocket launcher. Yeah. Anyway, so I definitely was like impressed with that. In addition to how I was reading the script and like certain moments of the script didn't seem to really correlate with what we were doing, but at the same time, I understood that he was getting certain things across because he'd be like, okay, we can't really do this because of that, so let's actually do this instead. And so I would say it was a weird moment because I had an expectation that is set by industry standards, you could say, quote unquote. Yeah. And then
perceptions of it.
Exactly, perceptions of it. And now I'm led to actually be in a moment where it's realistic. And I could notice that even in my own personal filming since that day, I've noticed that from a different light. That's actually the reason why I got the iPhone 15 Pro Max, was because I was like, I don't need a Blackmagic pocket camera, 6K Pro, which is like $4,000. that's just the base camera, not even the lenses. This phone has everything I need as a beginner. I don't need anything too crazy. Right. It has 3 focal lengths. It has everything I need with everything else. I can shoot in a log. Anyway, stuff like that. So I would say that was a really cool thing for me there. It's just holding up the green screen for like 15 minutes with my own arm really sucked. But other than that, it was pretty dope.
I mean, all experience is good experience.
Absolutely. That is so true.
And it teaches you a whole lot. And a lot of the different projects that anybody gets involved with have lessons that are involved with it. Mm-hmm. And you've kind of mentioned that you've worked on like 3D modeling and rendering and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And many of your other exploits have included deeper delving into visual effects, into 3D rendering, Commander Do being one of them.
Yeah.
Tests in ridiculous moments in horror movies of you putting yourself and your friend in, or even cloning yourself, like just testing different ways to clone yourself. Mm-hmm. So where does this love of visual effects come from?
So I definitely am a lover of just the surreal, just the craziness of something, just like something that pulls you out of the now and puts you in this. Right. And I guess it's a form of escapism for me. I for instance, with the Insidious, it's horror. It's a horror movie, right? We were watching Insidious 2 as a friend group, and there's a moment where it's supposed to be really intense, and I just burst out laughing. And my friends are like, "What the heck? Why are you laughing? Like, there's nothing funny about this." You're
a sadist. You're like, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, imagine with the piano playing in the background, she looks over, checks the hallway, and then my friend Fox is just dancing. And then everyone's like, "Oh, that's actually pretty funny." And I was like, no, I want everyone to see that. And so I set up my green screen, my newly acquired green screen, so I was so excited. And terribly, I handheld the camera as he did that dance, which is terrible, by the way. Don't ever do that.
Right.
And then when I was filming that, and then I had my other friends do things, and I did things, in After Effects, first time ever opening After Effects, learned how to key, and I hand-tracked and hand-scaled and hand-moved
each frame?
Each fetching frame.
Oh my gosh.
Just to get that just right. And I remember just being like, I don't know if I want to do this. But at the same time, just being like, this looks so funny. This looks so stupid. I love it.
And this is so annoying, but I love the results.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
And it's that drive that I think is really necessary when you love a specific work, right?
Yes.
It's a work that needs to be done, and when done with love, possibly a little hatred, it is incredible. And so I'd say VFX kind of stemmed from that, and I wanted to do more, and so I learned 3D, and I kind of wanted to do game development for a while as well.
Right.
But I have stories, I just have ideas, and I wanna get it out there, but I don't know how, except by like manipulating images digitally.
Right.
Like, because you can't do stuff in real life. You can't have my friend be in that movie already.
Right.
I can't have an actual dodo bird jump off of a plane and destroy all of London.
It's true.
I can't do that. I would love to. Well, maybe not the last one, but I would love to have those things come to life right before my eyes, but I need to do that behind the screen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And what are some of the ways that you have been able to learn? Is it literally just trial and error, or is it YouTube videos? Is there a specific channel that you reference to kind of give you some ideas? Like, where is it all coming from?
I would say YouTube is exactly how I've learned everything I've known. I've only gone to 2 like digital media classes. One when I was in high school with this concurrent enrollment through Slick, Salt Lake Community College, and it taught me some things, but not what I wanted.
Right.
And then another class in the University of Utah, which was literally the exact same curriculum, but worse. And I was so frustrated that they did not accept my Salt Lake Community College credit before. And then I transferred from there anyways and came here and took the animation program here originally before moving to film, because I realized that I hate drawing. But those were my moments of just the reason why I wanted to go into animation in the first place was to specialize in VFX.
Do more 3D modeling and that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But then I realized those are all things I can learn online, and I have been learning for years. Like, I've been learning since 2018.
Right.
I mean, take out the 2 years of my mission, that's about 4 years.
Right.
And I would say that over time, just YouTube and that, tons of trial and error. But the third thing that's the biggest is it's not learning just the technical aspect, but it's how do I want to apply it? Because if I learn to just do something just to do it, that to my brain doesn't work very well.
Right.
I need a literal purpose. And so when I think, oh, I want to put my friend here, I'm willing to learn the process of keying. I'm willing to learn the process of this.
Because you want to make your friends laugh, because you want to have this like crazy, hilarious idea just to show. Not necessarily for anything else other than satisfaction and laughs.
Exactly. And so I'd say the majority of my skills that I have now are not from me going out and learning a skill on my own, but it definitely came from me just going like, I want this to be real. How do I get that to happen?
Right.
And so I would go out and look up on YouTube. I'd start with basic research, good software, good things like that. Like when I was learning about music creation, for instance, I love sound design. I love the way things work. I love the way that when you have a moment that is someone paid attention and actually put in the time, to make something sound good,
right,
unique,
yes,
momentous, you could say, then that's something that really makes it more impactful. I think one of the reasons why I like the Marvel movies up until Endgame, after that, no, but up until Endgame was the incredible sound design. How about the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse?
Right.
You know when Spot, spoiler alert by the way, you know when Spot is like turning fully like back, he gets hit with the second particle accelerator, and there's that sound that's just like giving that atmosphere of just like, crap's real.
Yeah.
Like, he's not a joke. This is a real bad guy.
Yeah.
And you made him mad. You know, you really ticked him off. That sound accompanying that moment added so much more to it.
Right.
Or even like with the in the first movie when they had the Prowler, you know, that Prowler sound.
Yeah. I believe it's distorted elephant noises and things like that.
Reversed, if anything, like that. Yeah, it's like weird stuff like that. But there's this sense of like, oh, that's new.
Yeah.
It catches your attention.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to kind of put that into my work. I have something I'm working on right now, and I wanted to have something kind of like that. So I began that journey. I began to look into sound design. I started learning about this. I looked into FL Studio. I looked into Pro Tools. I looked into this one called Cakewalk. All these are all music productions, and like Adobe Audition and Classic Audacity.
Yeah.
But I eventually stuck up with FL Studio and put on my Christmas list to get. I eventually got that for my birthday. Amazingly, I don't know how, but I did. Great Black Friday deal. Woo. And then I also got a MIDI keyboard, and from there I began to learn how to do those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And I think like over time, sure, I'll have phases where I'm in it and then I'm out of it. Right. I got this thing and I got that thing.
Yeah.
I keep making the mistake of trying to be the one-man army. And I don't know if you can relate to that.
Oh, totally. No, I absolutely can relate to that.
Yeah, I was going to say, because like with the stuff I saw on your YouTube channel, right, you know, like music production and videography and stuff like that. I have
done a little bit of everything myself, and I have most of the videos that are on my channel were filmed independently or by myself. It's exhausting. It really is very exhausting to do everything.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah, because you have to manage, like, the meaning of the project, the elements of the project, and that it's up to your expectation of quality, right? And I think that definitely can get things going. I mean, the idea that we experienced when we were on our film sets for the AFP, right? Of being able to see everyone has their own specific job, to my mind seems like beyond what I think I'll ever do. Right. Like the ability to be like, I'm going to give you this task, I'm going to give you this task. And I'm like, man, can you have that? Like, could you do that? Like, can I just focus on directing? Like, is that a thing? Like, or do I have to do that and make sure the sound's good and make sure the lighting's good? Okay, everyone, give me 1 second. I got to make sure this is good. Actually, can you try that a different way? Oh, that reminds me, I have to write this down. Like, you have all these other things going back and forth between your mind.
Right.
And that's necessary when you're starting, like where we are right now. Learning how to do those individual
when
things.
We have to do literally everything.
Exactly. And I think when you have those goals, I mean, I could ask you this: what were things that you wanted to do that you had to go learn and look up?
Right, exactly. I had ideas of what I wanted to do, and it was like, okay, we're just gonna go do it. And I didn't necessarily. I think in essence, I looked at the tools around me. I think when it came to what I'm using to edit now. I'm using DaVinci Resolve. I
Awesome. Yeah.
consistently go to YouTube. I consistently like, okay, how can I make color correcting easier? How can I key out this thing? How can I add this element? How can I do this? How can I, just kind of like improve my knowledge of something that I know has a lot of potential and a lot more tools at its disposal.
Yeah.
Because admittedly, initially, this might blow your mind. I used Google Photos slideshow maker to edit all of my videos before 2020.
You're joking.
No, I'm not. I'm not kidding. I used Google Photos to edit every single video before 2020.
Dang.
When I look back on that, I'm incredibly grateful for what I learned because first off, I learned how to edit on not an editing software. Do not use that to edit your videos.
Don't do that.
That's a terrible idea. I had no control of sound. I had no control of whatever, but I learned how to cut. I learned how to cut really, really well. And because I knew how to cut my videos, once I moved on to an actual editing software designed for videos, I was able to, okay, now that I know how to cut a video, I can do this other thing. So it's kind of like a step-by-step process.
Yeah.
And whenever I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing, I'll look it up along the way. I'll look up cheap equipment that I can purchase. I mean, this is a perfect example of that. This is not...
Dude, this is awesome.
This looks nicer than it actually is, and that's okay. Like, that's... You work with it, you got it. You really do,
Absolutely.
And there ain't nothing wrong with that.
Learning how to work with what you got is definitely how you push yourself as a creative person, you know?
Yeah, I think any good creative works within limitations.
I think Everything Everywhere All at Once was kind of an example of that.
Yes,
because the majority of that movie was shot in one building. They had an entire office building, and they just sectioned off different parts of it for different sets. And then they filmed the whole thing there. And the VFX were done by 3 guys, and everything was pretty practical. And like there is this one scene where I haven't seen the movie actually, I'll be honest there, but I watched a video explaining how it was done because I just think it's great. And there's this scene where it does different timelines of how like a farewell at this one house went, and they filmed all of that. They're in the same costumes, everything like that. They filmed all of it just using slightly different angles to get different parts of the alleyway, and they did all of that in like under a couple hours. And I was just like, you see, that's the kind of stuff we need in Hollywood, because I think the issue is that a lot of people, they have so much money, and they just kind of toss it wherever or in the wrong areas, right? And it's only when you have restrictions. And I promise you, there's probably all the big time people are just like, these kids don't even know. I have all this money.
They haven't even made a movie yet.
Yeah, it gets, even with a lot of money, it gets really tight. And I'm like, I mean, I bet, but like, it would be better if you were smarter about some things. Which again, I don't know because I've made stupid videos and Commander Do and whatever. But like, compared to like the way that Marvel or like Disney's using their money right now, we can all agree, if someone had this much money and you gave it to this person who had this particular set of skills, imagine what they could do. Yeah, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I would say people are getting a little too comfortable, maybe financially.
No, I think so too. I can definitely agree with that. And going out of your comfort zone on different things is definitely how you grow as a filmmaker. And you, again, like going back to VFX, going to rendering, going to sound design, you've definitely kind of spread your wings a little bit, tried a little bit of everything, like what we were talking about not like 10 minutes ago, you know? You've also tried a couple of fight scenes in your time. You did the one where you were fighting with your friends in the street, right?
Yeah,
you did that one.
That was
classic,
a school assignment.
Classic fight scene. But then you have one that was more recent, the best friend fight, which is an anime inspired thing. And so you've got your dubbing, you've got the comedy aspect to it, but you also do have some fighting that happens in there. So I'm curious, on both of those sets, what were some of the hilarious mishaps which occurred during filming?
Okay. So I would say for the street one at least, so that one was like 2 days before that assignment was due.
Fantastic.
This was in my digital media class I talked about in high school. We were hitting COVID, so we weren't going to class anymore. And I had the idea a week ago, but didn't really choreograph anything. So that entire thing was completely just improvised in the moment, which is why it's so terrible. It is so bad. It's so like throwing soft punches that like don't even contact, and the other guy reacts like 5 seconds later, you know. But I got elbowed once in the face. Actually, after the video, I have a BTS, and you can kind of see that. And there's moments where like my friend Miles like didn't grab me, you know, like he just got out of the car and just like walked just over to me. Yeah, and he didn't do anything. We're like, what are you doing? Grab him, you know? Fun stuff like that. And then for the most recent one, that guy Miles, he was in Japan, and he just got home on Tuesday. Right. And so we kind of wanted to do a fun video that kind of kept him going, kept him inspired, kept him going
laughing, having a good time.
Exactly. So at this moment, it was my friend Staten and me figuring out who's the best friend.
Right.
And that's why we were fighting. And it was originally, did you ever watch the storyboard animatic?
I did,
okay,
yes.
So originally it was supposed to be on the street, and it was supposed to be a lot longer. But when we got there, it was snowing, and this was the day before this was like January 6th. So we were supposed
of this year.
Of this year. So school started January 9th.
Right.
And so that was a Monday. January 6th was like a Thursday, Friday. No, it was a Friday. Yeah, because so I was like, I'm leaving on Saturday or on Sunday or something like that, and I had to go soon, so we got to shoot this now, and then we got to edit this fast before I leave. We went there, and it was snowing like crazy, and I was like so pumped with adrenaline, like so excited that this is going to be a thing, that I was not paying attention to how cold it was. I was literally just in a sweatshirt in like 20-degree weather.
I did notice that when I watched it. I was like, man, it looked cold outside, but you do not seem bothered.
No, I was like so into this. And my friends as well, like Holly, that's Miles' twin sister. She was the one behind the camera.
Right.
She was using the gimbal and everything like that, and she was like trying to get specific shots, right? And we had to try to do it in a timely manner so that our faces don't keep getting redder and redder, and also so our clothes don't get wet and more wet.
Right.
But it's difficult because there's people who like to walk their dogs in the snowy time, and that's why in the BTS you would see people like walking by, and I'm just like, hi, so good to see you. Oh, I'm so happy you're here. You know, just kind of like, get out of the way. Yeah, kind of a thing. Yeah. But it was, I would say that was one of the fun things. And then also when we were trying to get the blood to spit out when he uppercut me, I in my mind knew how it was supposed to look, and I could not deliver it. I couldn't communicate to Holly how the camera needed to be. This is also the first time ever shooting a video on this camera, and I didn't know that when you're shooting with the Blackmagic app,
right,
that there's only 13 millimeters, 24 millimeters, and 120 millimeters. So there is no 50, no 75, no 90, nothing in between. You just get wide, super wide, classic, medium wide, and then you get super long shot. And so I felt the super long shot was the coolest, but it was really bright. And so with like not having an ND filter on things and all of that, it was super hard to get it going. And then we just kept going. And so like I bought, before we went to Smith's, bought some, I was going to get Kool-Aid, but I like Neo. So I bought some black cherry Mio, and I squirted the heck into that thing so it'd be really saturated, and it still came out pink. And I was like, gosh dang it. And I was like, it's okay. I did the classic line, we'll fix it in post. And so I...
Did you?
No, it took way... There were moments where I would go to spit, and I'd stop the frame, and I would try to like color picker it, but my face was the same color because it was so cold. So I tried like, okay, let me do like a window, but like when it literally comes out of my face, right?
So it's still connected to your...
So if I change the color of it with my chin there, my chin would change color with it as well. So it's like either I go through and hand like rotoscope every drop.
Right.
This is going to be pink. And I decided that it's going to be pink. So, yeah, so something like that. And then also Staten really enjoyed uppercutting me multiple times. And
I think something that helped with that is that it was an uppercut into the gut.
Yeah.
Not in the face. Because in the face, it's like, oh, it's supposed to come from your mouth. But with the gut, it's like, oh, that came from it. Like, my mind was like, oh, it came from his stomach. Like, oh, that's intense. So it still worked.
Yeah, exactly.
It still worked. Like, even if it didn't turn out the way that you thought, sometimes it still works.
Well, that was also a kind of a play on one of the animes that Miles likes, and I and my other friend Fox is... And that's the thing is Holly and Stan do not like anime. So the fact that they wanted to help with this was like a huge thing for me.
Just literally probably fueled of, oh yeah, let's make this for our friends.
Yeah, exactly. And they're just like, oh yeah, let's make a Japanese kind of video. And I was like, okay. And Stanton's like, I don't think I can memorize all these Japanese lines. And I was like, we're just going to do an English when we're doing it, and then we'll do a terrible Japanese dub afterwards. Which was also a funny thing. But like, there's this thing in like some shows, like it's called Jujutsu Kaisen. I don't know if you've heard of it, but this guy gets hit so hard, he goes like, blah, and, like he just shoots out blood everywhere. And so I was like, oh, I'm gonna take that sort of thing. But like, I couldn't hold enough water in my mouth so that when he hit me, it would look good. It just looked like little driplets just like kind of came out of my mouth, and I was like, no, that's not what I wanted. It's like Seth Rogen was talking with the Corridor crew actually. If you saw that video,
I think I know what you're talking about.
With the exploding people.
Yeah.
He said if you look at like how much, if someone was to explode with the liquids in their body, it would not be enough for people to actually be like, oh yeah, that guy's exploding. So what they do is they put like 10 to 15 times more of the liquid to explode, or the chunks to explode.
More blood. I want more blood.
More blood to explode. And people go like, oh, frick, someone exploded. Because that's the whole point about this. Is like cinema is all about emotion.
Right. And
exaggeration.
Evoking like the actual what has happened. Not necessarily reality, but the perceived reality.
Exactly. Yeah. So, anyways, I would say that was one thing that I was like, but it was a really fun time. That was a really fun one, 2 hours, and we were freezing when we got home. We got home, we did the Japanese dubs for it, and threw the video together the next day.
What are your friends' reactions to doing a lot of these videos? They're being a participant, not just watching them, but what are their reactions to being a participant in these?
Like in the moment, or their reaction of them participating in it and seeing the final result?
Yes.
Okay. So I would say I get when someone's a part of something, they are a lot more excited to see the result.
Yes.
Because I will show that video to certain people, and they'll be like, "That was cool."
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's it. But then when I showed that to my friends, they were all like, that was so, and then we could like
masterpiece.
It's wonderful, exactly. And they'd be like, oh, look at my face right there. Like, oh, stop it, your face is hilarious, stuff like that. Just like, oh my goodness, so good. And it's because like we were there in the making, and yet the way that it came out in the end was like, well, that was so much better than I saw it with my own eyes. Like this is beautifully crafted. I remember when I asked you what was one of your favorites of all of my videos, and you're like, oh, the best friend fight. I was like, really? That's actually cool. Because like a lot of people, I don't think would really think that. Because a lot of people, I think, might pick some of my other stupid crap that made them laugh or whatnot. But like, I would say this was one that I did write a script, had an animatic for it.
Yeah.
Got my friends to do it. We filmed it not on the spot, not improvised. I mean, we cut half of the video, but like we
completely planned it out.
Exactly. Yeah. And then we went through with it. And I think that was one thing that was big for me, but also why I felt like it wasn't that same energy that I had in my other stuff where it was completely improvised.
Just totally, yeah.
And that's kind of the structure that I'm wanting to follow now. But anyways, yeah.
It's a totally different feeling when you plan it out, because there's pros and cons to both.
Yeah.
Spontaneity is always something that I think I praise when it comes to videos, when it comes to filmmaking, because I think being spontaneous and having the ability to be spontaneous is chef's kiss. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I think of like Robin Williams, I think of Matt Damon, these fantastic actors who have improvised amazing scenes and stuff like that. But then I also think of there's a time and a place for that kind of stuff. Because if it's too much, then there's still like there's no direction. You know? Like kind of like what you were talking about earlier when you were talking with everyone working with all the neighborhood kids.
Yeah.
There's just no direction. And so having that plan and then incorporating a bit of both, because you definitely want to have spontaneity, improvisation, because that's where a lot of really cool ideas come from that would not have been able to be planned out previously. Yeah. And I love that. That's fantastic.
I think one of the interesting things is that in this video that I was shooting recently with one of my friends, we there were moments where we'd be out somewhere. We drove out to a place, and I was like, there is so much opportunity here, but we don't have a lot of time. And I had that kind of realism kind of hit me. I mean, maybe directors have this issue as well, where they're like, I want to do this, and producers like, we don't have the money, something like that, because like they have to pay for everyone to be there and do certain things. Yeah. But like, imagine if you were unhinged on that. Gareth Edwards, he's the guy who did a movie called Monsters. He did Rogue One, he did Godzilla, and he did The Creator recently. Cordo Crude recently did like an interview with him as they went through some of his stuff with their VFX reacts, and he talked about how when he was filming this movie called Monster, which I really want to watch, actually, I think I'm going to do that today.
Sick.
He did this thing where he, and his crew, which is a really small crew, they just went to South America with, like, they'd have the slug line in the script with a paragraph of what's supposed to happen, nothing else. And so they're like, I just need to get this message across. So in the moment, find a scene that would work with that. So they would go to different cities and different villages and be like, is there anything weird here? And then be like, oh my gosh, yeah, there's like this train that like flipped over a couple years ago and it's just still there. Or they'll be like, yeah, this thing happened over here. There's this abandoned place that burned down. And they would go there and they would just, like, the actors knew what the goal was. The actors knew the vision. And they would just come up with something on the spot. And then he, in the edit later, would have to find a way to incorporate that into the overall story chronologically.
Nice. That's cool.
And same with VFX, stuff like that. So, like, they'd be like, oh, they're looking at something in the river. And so he's like, perfect. And he'll do that. And then later in the edit, he was like, you know, I don't think I want to put a monster in the river. I think I kind of would rather have this ship, this, like, fighter jet. Okay, just, like, get rotated over and then pulled under the water. And that was different than what he originally planned.
Right.
Or, like, there's a train in the mountains that's, like, got destroyed. And it's, like, that form of improvisation, that form of just, like, wow, how do you come up with that? And how do you have people trust in that?
Right.
That they work with it, right?
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing I kind of want to incorporate. Like, how do you have that balance of good direction, structure, but improvised energy? Because there is this sense of, like, I couldn't think of this when I was typing on my computer. Because now that I'm here and I see it, I feel like this could go a whole new way. But you kind of have to stick to that, and that can hurt. That can hurt you as a creative person, because all creativity really is, in my mind, is seeing opportunity and then trying to take as much advantage of it as you can.
Absolutely.
For the better good of what you want to get
Totally.
through. Get your point across. Sorry. So I definitely think that, I mean, in my work and also in Gareth Edwards' work that I've seen, it's something that I want to improve. Is something like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a constant effort of finding that balance between structure and improvisation.
Yeah.
And there's the phrase of, you make 3 different movies. You have the one that you write, the one that you film, and then the one that you edit. You know, and they're all different because things change, stuff happens, spontaneity. You gotta leave that room in there for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And in the process of making the short film that you're working on currently, including a dream sequence with a lot of match cuts and going to different locations, with how ambitious and visually interesting this sounds, what are the intricacies of this project, and how difficult has it been?
Yeah, so I would say another thing that's always been difficult for me, the reason why I kind of wanted to take the animated approach is because I have a hard time working with people. Meaning, I don't like scheduling according to other people's schedules.
Right.
But I also hate being alone. So that's kind of like a contradictory thing. I have to learn to trust. I have to learn to sacrifice.
Right.
I have to learn to work and cooperate. And this project has been the realization of that, you could say. So working with my best friend Spencer, we've been having to find times, like, it's not even all the way shot. And after this semester, he is going to Kansas City to do sales for the summer.
Nice.
So I have to finish shooting this by the end of this semester,
right,
in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing for me, I would say. In addition to that, I would say writing this and being kind of vulnerable with that writing, because I've always taken work pretty serious. I mean, pretty jokingly is what I meant.
Right.
Pretty jokingly. I've always done things for fun.
Yeah.
And so that when people didn't like it, I could just be like, well, it was a joke.
Blow it off.
Yeah, it wasn't real. It wasn't supposed to be my best work. Here I am challenging that, and it's making me completely vulnerable.
Right.
And so writing out things. I love telling stories, but I'm so bad at writing the intricate moments. I'm good at writing the overall plot in my mind. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Ideas, where things can go. But when it comes to, like, the dialogue between two different people and being able to reveal who they are while also moving in the direction of where the plot needs to go is so tricky to not make it sound so cheesy. And that's what, of course, bad writing is. I mean, that's what everyone needs to go through, is through bad writing.
Right.
But I'm a perfectionist, aren't we all not? And so aren't we all? And we all want to do...
Get it right the first time.
Get it right the first time. And so I'm scared to make mistakes in that way. I'm scared to show people, because then I'm showing them who I truly am, what I'm actually capable of, and I'm being completely vulnerable to them saying, this is bad. And that's had to happen a little bit as I've been writing drafts and drafts. And I mean, all the acting I've ever done, if I know that it's stupid, I can act stupid. But if I need to act serious, oh my goodness, that's so much harder. So much harder.
Because it's scarier. It's so much more vulnerable, because it's like, I mean, in that moment, think about doing it with your friends. Are they gonna like laugh? It's like, dude, I'm trying to be serious. Stop laughing.
Exactly.
And then you get super self-conscious, and then it makes it harder to go forward.
Exactly.
And to keep trying.
Like, I know I'm not a great singer at all, but I really want to think I am. And
amen.
I would say you're not half bad, honestly. Honestly.
No, I don't think so.
You've actually made music. That's impressive. There's a reason why none of my stuff's on the market. Okay. And I think that this is an aspect of art that I am overcoming, is how do I be okay? How do I be okay? Does that make sense? Okay. How do I be okay with making mistakes? How do I stay strong and vigilant in what I want to do? How do I maintain enthusiasm? You know, my friend Spencer showed me this kind of quote, because I was getting pretty beat up about myself one day. I pulled up to a shoot and I was just like, I don't feel very good about this at all. So sorry, I can't keep up the main energy. And he was like, okay, let me show you this. And he's like, success is not... People's perspective of success is a lot different than what it really is. Because success is going through multiple failures without losing enthusiasm.
Yeah.
It's being able to push through it all with a constant enthusiasm. And so I've been trying to uphold that as much as I can. And I would say in this project, going to different places, my mind goes like, oh, this is what it's going to look like. And then bringing it to reality, there's so many variables I just don't consider.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to mess this up. And it's like, there's 2 points of thought I could do. I can focus on the thoughts of anxiety or the ones of faith.
Right.
And I'm working with that right now. I would say that. Sorry, was that your question again? Was it something about like what are the things I'm learning? Or
that absolutely.
Okay, good. Because I just realized I went somewhere.
Don't stress about the questions. It's just like a jumping off point. That's what these are.
Yeah.
This is a conversation. This is a pick your brain about different things.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
Just make sure.
I am curious though, with the intricacies and the visual idea. I can visualize this. Like I can see this. I can kind of see where it's going. Do you have a working title for this?
I do. So it's called Liminal.
Okay.
So it's kind of a, I wouldn't say basic, but like, you know how everyone's getting into like the dreamscape idea right now? Everyone's like, oh, liminal spaces, the back rooms,
Yeah.
So, stuff like that. I would say that this story has been one I have been writing for a long time. And now the fact that everyone's getting into it, I don't know if that's either the driving factor for me wanting to make this a reality, or if it's more annoying because like now everyone's gonna be like, oh, you're nothing but a bandwagon,
right?
Yeah, and I'm just like, oh,
yeah, I get you.
Maybe I am. I don't know, but but like dreams is a huge thing for me, and also mental health, because I do have anxiety, depression, and ADHD, the big three we call them, right. And they are a huge influence in my stories. Right. This idea of where do you put your priorities? How do you learn to work with that? Because as I personally learn how to do it, and I go through the experiences, right. I want to kind of like represent that in a more symbolically powerful way. Totally. I think one of the reasons why anime is so cool compared to kind of some Western culture is that Western culture is very formulated. Anime is very weird. Yes. And the reason why it's so weird is because not only is it from, weird people, but it's also, not saying like those cultures are weird, but I'm saying the individuals are weird. No. I got what you meant. I got what you meant. Those are like the people that are making it may be weird, but they've experienced something and they want to tell that story. And the way they're telling it has a purpose. And so it's not so linear. And that is exactly how our lives are. Our lives are weird. Our lives make no sense. And when we want to conform to like a structure of things all the time, and we notice that we're not a part of that, we start to freak out.
Right.
So this story that I'm writing is kind of taking that idea where I have a character who is struggling with sleeping. And I'm trying not to go too far into it just in case I never release it right now and I will release it later. But the idea of it is that he isn't sleeping because he doesn't want to sleep. And he says that it's nightmares. And so his other friend, who Spencer is playing, wants to understand more. The first friend, well, I'll just say it's me right now, Bryson. Bryson doesn't want to tell him right now because Bryson is struggling with, he used lucid dreaming as a form of coping. And that was actually something that I did do throughout COVID. I got really good at lucid dreaming. And then, I just lost it. But that's fine. In the story, he got so good at it to the point where he preferred to live in the dream world instead of this world. It's kind of like an Inception.
Yeah, I was gonna say I could see
Limbo.
the kind of the inspiration from it.
Exactly, and actually, there's points in conversation where they talk about, not in this episode, but in the future one. I've already written a little bit of it, but they talk about how it's not like that. It's slightly different, and then you might be wondering why it's called liminal, and that I can't get into right now. But the idea is like he got so caught up in his dreams, and he was trying to connect the conscious to the subconscious to the point where it's one seamless flow. But he lost that ability to control it, and his subconscious is kind of taking revenge. And so
interesting. That's really interesting.
He's like having an internal torture
right
with himself, and the more power he gives it, the more pain he feels.
Yeah.
And the subconscious remembers a lot, and it has a lot of abilities to do a lot of different things, and that's why dreams are so cool. But what do you do when you toy with that, and what do you do when you piss it off?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what this whole thing is. So anyways, that's the basic idea of the story. As of the intricacies and where I want to take it, it does have a lot of inspiration from shows like anime,
right.
Because it has a lot of that emotional appeal and a lot of that emotional symbolism that I think is far more effective to do in a dream reality. If you were to do that in a real reality and there are plot holes, let's say, that'd be a lot harder for me as a writer to plug up.
Right.
But if I was to do it in someone's mind, well, they go, oh, it's a dream, so it doesn't need to make sense. That sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, but I would say, yeah, that's kind of the gist of the story right now. And it's come from years of me experimenting with this idea, and I recognized literally a couple days ago, oh my gosh, this is from this story I wrote, and this is from this story I wrote, and this is like most people write stories inspired from other actual shows. I have never written a story based off of my own stories that my brain thought were other things, and I'm just reusing elements and finding a way to actually fit them that were better than their original places, I guess. Yeah. So anyways, that's kind of a fun thing for me as a writer, that is, and to be able to translate that as a director or as a producer, that's been painful. I would say that's painful to be like, oh, it's supposed to be so much better. And even when I'm supposed to be one of the actors, like I am acting as the guy who's, because this video is kind of like a test.
Right.
It's just a test to see, 1, me as a director, can I do this? 2, as a writer, will this be good? 3, overall, is the story good?
Right.
And man, I can't act. My friend can.
It's okay. That's okay.
Like taking it, like you said, a very serious direction, you are a lot more vulnerable to that. And I am like, how do you approach that? Like how do you look like you haven't slept for 3 days?
Yeah.
I was wondering if I should actually try not sleeping for 3 days, method acting.
Go method.
Yeah, and see if that would help me to get that effect across. My friend Spencer's like, absolutely not. Do not do that. And I was like, Shia LaBeouf had something going for him, bro. he did some good stuff because of that.
No, is there going to be a place where we're going to be able to watch it?
I'm hoping that if I can finish shooting with Spencer, that I can edit it over the summer. Probably, honestly, editing shouldn't take that long. It's like a 2-minute video.
Okay.
It should not be taking this long.
Okay.
The reason why it is taking so long is because I had to revise the script like 5 times. And it's not even the actions. It's the words that are said. Because it's like an intervention sort of thing where my friend's like, dude, you haven't been sleeping for a while. Yeah, tell me what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's like, And so like I'm wondering like how does my character approach it? Like I don't want it to be cheesy. I don't want it to be so concealed at the same time. Like I want it to be where he just says things how they are, and then you're like, "Oh, that's it." And you realize that that's not it. Like there is more to that.
There's more subtext to that.
Exactly.
That we don't really know about.
Most shows would take the very basic things that he says and they would stretch that as long as they can. They would like milk that teat dry until there's nothing left. But for this show, I really want to give the viewers a point of like interest, of plot, and then just be like, that's just the taste. And so my mind is like, okay, so now that I have that expectation, how do I deliver that? And I have an idea of how to deliver it, and I'm really excited, but it matters heavily on how I set it up.
Yeah.
That's why this is a test. So that's why I'm kind of taking forever, but I'm hoping June, May, June is when it would be done.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah.
Is it going to be on YouTube, or is it just going to be like...
I will be posting it.
Cool.
It's going to hurt, but I'll post it. I will have it for
it's
the public.
It's a scary thing to do at first, and then you start to disconnect. You got to learn how to disconnect.
I do.
Otherwise, like, it's just going to be like, oh, man, this is going to be embarrassing. I feel that way about some of my videos, that from the past, but I'm like, it is what it is, you know.
I need to learn that phrase.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Bryson, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you for being here. Any last 2 cents? Anything you want to shout out while you're here?
Oh man, I wish I thought about that beforehand. No, I'm good. I thank you so much for having me. Thank you for letting me talk a lot, and thanks for listening to me talk.
Yeah, friend.
So
no problem.
Yeah. Wish the best, I guess. So
yeah, awesome.
Have me back anytime,
yeah.
I guess.
Okay, cool. Will do. Well, thank everybody for watching. Have a nice day.
Cheerio.
Peace.